How did you use new media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages?
At the start of the project, I had to do a lot of research in order to gain a good understanding of short films. In order to do this, I used the internet, where I used search engines such as Google to find out new information from various websites. Google and Google Images was particularly helpful when looking at examples of film posters and independent film magazines. I also looked at many examples of short films. I primarily looked at video sharing websites like YouTube to search for films. However, I also found a website called Short of the Week, which is specific to short films and has many different examples in a variety of categories and genres. The internet also allowed me to research different fonts and titles. I looked on websites such as 1001 Free Fonts for inspiration for my own title sequence. And to present my research, I used an online tool called Prezi, which is a more interactive and alternative to PowerPoint presentations. During the planning stage, I used some physical forms of technology to carry out tasks, as well as some online tools. One of the things I used was a digital camera to take photos of different potential locations during our location recce. This was helpful because it allowed us to go back to the photos when making the final decision about what location we wanted to use, rather than go back to the location itself. I also used Microsoft Word to create call sheets to give to the cast so that they knew when and where to meet us on the day of filming. Microsoft Excel was also used to make a shooting schedule so that everything was organised on the day of our filming. Furthermore, I used email as a form of communication to contact teachers to ask them for permission to use their classrooms. Other technology we used during the planning stage was a scanner to scan our storyboard into the computer. When I scanned the storyboard, it came out as a PDF file. However, in order to post it on my blog, I had to convert the file into a JPEG image. To do this, I used the internet and found a website called pdf-to-jpeg.net, which allowed me to convert my PDF file into an image. For the construction of our film, the main technology that we used was the Canon XCAI cameras. From AS, I already knew of how to use the camera and how to create a variety of camera shots, including close-ups, long shots and pans. However, during A2, we wanted to challenge ourselves and create a larger variety of camera shots. To do this, we were constantly moving the camera around into different points of the room in order to gain the best camera shot and angle. As a result, every time we had moved the camera, we had to check that the spirit level was in the center, despite still being in the same room. This was to ensure that the camera shots were always balanced and secure. During AS, I remembered that we didn't consider how the camera shots represented the characters. Therefore, in A2, we carefully chose our camera shots depending on the representation that we wanted to get across. For example, in our film, there is a low-angle shot of the teacher, as we wanted to make her seem big and superior. Next, to edit our footage, we use a software called Adobe Premiere. To start the editing process, we cut in between all the camera shots and takes using the razor tool, and then done an assembly edit where we put our film into chronological order. After that, we went through all our camera takes and decided what take to use in each scene. We then chose which camera shots to use, as we had multiple shots to choose from. In order to illustrate a new scene, we used many fades rather than just cutting the scene, as the fades created a smoother transition and clearly demonstrated a new scene. To achieve this, we selected the clip in which we wanted to fade and then used the effect controls to change the opacity of the clip from 100% to 0%, where 100% showed the whole image and 0% showed it disappear. Also in Adobe Premiere, we used a dissolve to suggest the passing of time. And to do this, we had to drag the two clips on top of each other and then change the opacity levels for the end of the first clip and the beginning of the next clip, which created an effective dissolve. Other technology I used was Adobe After Effects to create my title sequence. To make the titles in which I had planned, I downloaded the inspired font from 1001 free fonts to act as a template in which I traced in After Effects. After I had traced the font, I then explored many different ways to present my titles by looking at various transitions and movements using the tool called Effects and Presents. As there were many effects, I narrowed them down by typing in keywords such as bounce and move. After choosing the effects, I used fades similar to the ones in Adobe Premiere to make the transition between the titles look neat and smooth. To construct the poster, we firstly carried out a photo shoot with our cast using our mobile phone cameras. We then used Adobe Photoshop to actually create and design the poster. We started by creating layers, followed by importing different texts and images into Photoshop. One of the main tools we used was a quick selection tool, which allowed us to crop the background of an image. For example, the original photos had a background, whereas using this quick selection tool, we cropped the background so that we could only see the two boys.
We also used Adobe Photoshop to create the magazine review. Overall, there is a clear variety of new media technologies that is used in different ways throughout the stages of the project.